Hotep everyone, peace. This is my introduction to my channel. I've decided to restart, shall we say. Hello everyone, my name's William. I'm in Australia and this channel has been revamped because I want to use it as a place to discuss spiritual topics that may equate to the New Age community, the Ascension path, the unity consciousness and all that stuff. A very brief background. I've been on the spiritual journey for 20 years, 19, 20 years, and I've worked with a lot of different faiths, be it Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, and various strands of paganism. So I've worked with meditation. I've got my stage 2 in Reiki. I do occasionally use tarot and oracle cards, and I have had the privilege of having guided people through readings in the past. I've also had the privilege of guiding people in meditation. I've given public talks on various topics. Dwarves was probably my favorite one. But yeah, so I thought I'd get on here and really just introduce myself, but I also wanted to introduce to you two of my guides. So obviously, having connected with different faiths, I have connected with different philosophies and also different guides throughout that time. I only wanted to introduce to you two guides currently because one I've had in my life for well over a decade, probably in hindsight closer to 2 decades, but who's counting? And the other one has recently appeared, but has appeared in such a way that he's been in my dreams. He's been in meditations and has just brought a new understanding to things. So the oldest one first. Let's go with the one I fondly name Dad. So I've got a statue here of him. This is Osiris. Well, that's the Greek name of the Egyptian god Wesir. Now I refer to him by his Egyptian name. It doesn't really matter. If you're more comfortable using the name Osiris, go for it. But Wesir has been in my life for close to 20 years. He appeared more directly in my life as a guide in 2007. I was at the time connected with the Kemetic Orthodox on their forums, online, on their website. I was asking questions. I was very enthusiastic. And at the time I went to this Egyptian exhibition in Adelaide, I had expected one of the more popular figures to jump out at me. So like Anubis, Yinapu, or Sekhmet, or Bastet, or Sobek, or Heru, Horus. And none of them did. I walked past statues, I walked past images, and it wasn't until I walked into a room, one of the smaller rooms, and I saw sitting on a plinth in the middle of this room, a statue that was actually probably shorter than this, made of green stone. I'm not sure what it was, but it was of Osiris. It was of Wesir. And the energy I felt, it was basically like I was hypnotized to it. It was an energy of love, acceptance, and it was just swept me off my feet. It was very hard to explain. So of course I walked out of that exhibition on cloud 11, 12, and since then Wesir has constantly appeared to me in meditation, both sitting meditation and walking meditation. When I visualize him, I can see him clearly. And the love I get from him is profound. So he's one of my constant foundations for my spiritual path. A very loving, grounding figure who represents the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. Represents the moon. Represents growing things, nature. And also, I recently, as of last night, actually listened to a myth. I'd never heard of him before, and he seems to be quite the magician as well. So that was kind of a new face of an old friend. So it was good to see. The other guide, the one who's recently come into my life, is this lovely fellow. This is the Bodhisattva Kshitigarbha, or in Japan he's known as Jizo. And he is the Buddha who made the great vow to get all suffering beings out of the hell realms. So he is the figure who goes to the deepest depths where people who are seemingly irredeemable, seemingly you just can't help them. They're beyond redemption, and he doesn't give up on them. So think the worst possible person you can in life, and this guy still aims to redeem them, still aims to bring them to enlightenment, still aims to free them from their bondage, whether it be greed, hatred, delusion, or anything else. This is the dude. And I only got this statue today, actually. I've been waiting for about 2 months, and when I opened it, I was very, very impressed. And the reason I got a wooden statue is because Kshitigarbha's name means earth storm. So he is an earth-connected bodhisattva. He's also connected with the Vajra family in the 5 Buddha mandala. So he's also connected with air in some respects. The little rings on his staff are like bells. So when you walk with one of these, they tinkle. And it's said that when demons hear the sound of his chimes, essentially, they leg it, they run. So Kshitigarbha has become a new very placid guide, actually, and it's not often I get guides in dreams, but he appeared very, very realistically, very, very visually in a dream, probably about 3 weeks ago. And he took all these different places of conflict, be it war, even prisons, and we just observed. We observed the hardship and the suffering and the confusion and the violence and all of that. And we just observed with eyes of compassion. So think of, when I think of Kshitigarbha, I think of beings that we might think of as completely unable to help, like Hitler, or perhaps Osama bin Laden, or any one of the mass murderers, or even, those who are pedophiles or whatever. Kshitigarbha still feels, still aims to show them they're wrong and to help them out of their bondage, which is self-destructive and ultimately harmful to other living beings. So he's a very determined figure. And what I like about Kshitigarbha is he's very simplistic. He's dressed as a simple monk. And it reminds me of the Dalai Lama, because obviously there's mythology about him, that he is the reincarnation of the Bodhisattva Chenrezig, Avalokiteshvara, Kuan Yin, the Buddha of compassion. And people often ask him about this, and he goes, well, I'm just a simple Buddhist monk. And I think Kshitigarbha represents that simplicity. So, probably the first video after this will be on changing the vocabulary of the ascension path. And there's many reasons why I want to do that. And I will, of course, explain it again in more depth in the next video. But my reason for wanting to do so is because I find that often in spiritual circles, we get ourselves into a lingo and a language that reaches a point where it's no longer helpful, where it's actually quite detrimental to what we're trying to achieve. And I feel that in the spiritualist New Age circles, and I'm going to include the starseed groups, the twin flame groups, many different groups have latched onto labels and concepts that are now hindering the next stage of openness. So I will address that in the next video. I also want to cover a little bit more about each of these figures, so Wesir and Kshitigarbha and others. I'll introduce you to others. Other guides I have are the Archangel Sandalphon. I also have Tehuti or Thoth. I also have Ganesh and Hanuman. So I have a very wide variety of different guides, and of course I've been guided by Christ as well. So I'm very fortunate. I just noticed that the time just went 11:11. There's a bit of numerology for you, which I may cover eventually. I'm not much of a numerologist. I'm not much of an astrologist. I know a little bit about my own astrology, but I don't know too much. So yeah, that's life. This is coffee. It's awesome. Good for the soul. So I thought I'd wrap up with a little bit of a reading, and this is for Dad Wesir, and this is from Normandy Ellis's beautiful Awakening Osiris, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Sorry, it's reverse. I will put a link eventually up in one of my videos, whether it's this one or a future video. I absolutely recommend this book. It is a beautiful, meditative, poetic translation of many of the Egyptian pyramid texts, and it is sublime. So I'm going to read the middle paragraph of the Hymn to Osiris. This is chapter 67 on page 220. And actually, while I do this, I'm going to put Wesir back here so you can see him, because why? He doesn't get the attention he deserves. I have come home. I have entered humanhood, bound to rocks and plants, men and women, rivers and sky. I shall be with you in this and other worlds. When the cat arches in the doorway, think of me. I have sometimes been like that. When two men greet each other in the street, I am there speaking to you. When you look up, know I am there, sun and moon, pouring my love around you. All these things am I, portents, images, signs. Though apart, I am part of you. One of the million things in the universe, I am the universe too. You think I disguise myself as rivers and trees simply to confuse you. Whatever I am, woman, cat, or lotus, the same God breathes in every body. You and I together are a single creation. Neither death, nor spite, nor fear, nor ignorance stops my love for you. So that's the part of the Hymn to Osiris at the end of this book. The other thing I just wanted to quickly finish off with is a thank you to the lovely color therapist, Archangel Metatron healer Amanda Ellis, who really has inspired me over the past year or so since I've run into her channel. She's on YouTube. She also has a lovely Facebook community called Angelic Celestial Colors. I highly recommend you check her out. She's down to earth, she's sensible, she's courageous, she touches on subjects that most other people would probably run from. And I've been really inspired by her sincerity. And that's partly why I jumped on here finally, because she's inspired me to be sincere within myself and to finally get my experiences out there. So I will sign off now. I wish you all a lovely day. It's very cold here. Oh, sun's shining. I might have to go for a walk. So have a lovely day. Blessings. Stay warm if you're in Australia. Stay cool if you're in the UK or America. I hear you're having quite a rough summer. So yeah, look after yourselves, and I will be back soon. Namaste and Sunoti. Be well.